And John Dickerson is with us from Washington. John, let's start with Mr. Trump's response to John Lewis. A Quinnipiac poll last week found that 2/3 of voters want Mr. Trump to close his Twitter account. What do you make of Mr. Trump's comments?
Well, it's hard to divine the mind of Donald Trump. I think it can be one of several things. One, it can be a distraction to get all of us talking about it, to remove focus from a series of other issues, whether it's the Russia relationship, the disconnect between Donald Trump and his cabinet heads, the new Senate intelligence investigation into Russian connections with the Trump campaign. Could also be just Donald Trump as a counterpuncher, always wanting to hit back harder than he has been hit. It could be any number of things that inspired that. It's hard to know.
All right, so let's talk about something that we do know Mr. Trump has spoken on. Where is Mr. Trump now on Russia compared to a week ago, John?
Well, it's still hard to find out exactly where he is on Russia. For example, in his press conference, he said that he believed that Russia was involved in meddling in the U.S. election. And then at the end of the press conference, he said, well, it also could have been other countries, which puts him back to essentially his first answer about it back in October. The question is, what is Donald Trump's posture towards Russia in the world where it has been adventuresome, where it has designs on different places in the world, where it is exerting its sphere of influence in a number of different ways? If you listen to Donald Trump, there is no action, nothing he says that suggests he's going to confront Russia for anything that it's done, including being involved in the election. If you listen to the people who are going to head his Secretary of State's office and Secretary of Defense, they take a much tougher posture towards Russia in a couple of different ways. They refer to Russia as an adversary. The incoming Secretary of State Tillerson says that it's very unlikely Russia will ever be America's friend. He says Russia needs to be challenged in certain places. He didn't delineate them, but some of them are pretty obvious. And James Mattis, the incoming Secretary of Defense, also talks about pushing back against Russia, challenging Russia. Those are diametrically opposed worldviews between Donald Trump and his Secretaries of Defense and State. And so how that all gets worked out when it comes to making real policy will be one of the fascinating questions for the early Trump administration.
Well, let's talk about inauguration. We're just days away here. Mr. Trump is going into inauguration with a 43% favorable rating, the lowest on record. What's the significance of that, John?
Well, the significance is that he's done nothing to improve his rating between winning the election and becoming president. Though he has rhetorically talked about unity, there's very little that he's done symbolically. This is a symbolic president who knows the power of symbols and who has used them effectively with his multi-state thank you tour, with his trip to Indiana to pressure the carrier company. So there are a lot of ways in which he knows how to use symbols to advance his message. He has not chosen to use symbol to advance the message of unity so far. Now, then there's a secondary question of whether symbolism matters and actions actually matter, and those that he will take in office. So there is a portion of the country that does not trust him and that is wary. And he has not really done anything to speak to that portion of the country. We'll see if he does as president. But at some point, a president needs the rest of the country. They are not just the president of their base. And how that affects Donald Trump will be fascinating as he tries to get Congress to do things. And Congress, in some places, will be responding to that public pressure if it continues to be against Donald Trump.
So then, John, given what you just outlined, what are you going to be looking for in Mr. Trump's inaugural address on Friday?
Well, I think in a sense, inaugural addresses are interesting and fascinating moments in history. This is a dawning of a new era. It is important to hear what he says. But one thing that we've learned about Donald Trump is that what he says is only one little part of the picture. It's really what he does and really what he will do over the next many months. And so in the same way, there has been a disconnect between the words in his election night speech and the actions he's taken since then. Will there be such a disconnect? So what the speech does, in a sense, is it sets a standard for measurement of the rest of his administration. And so the promises he makes and the calls he puts out to the country will give us maybe some sense of how he'll behave. But if they don't give us that, they'll give us a standard against which to judge him. And the standards are shifting and changing in American politics right now. So every chance we get to kind of write them down and measure them against future performance, those are important moments.
Finally, John, I want to get your thoughts on Esquire's report that the Trump administration is considering moving the briefing room, the press briefing room, from its current spot within the White House and the West Wing there.
Well, on the one hand, this could be a great opportunity. The press briefing room is quite small and cramped and crowded. And so if they're going to have daily briefings or regular briefings at the White House, and there's going to be a lot of people attending those televised events, then moving it out of the physical location of the White House doesn't seem to be that big a deal. It also frees up space for the day-to-day business of the White House, all those industrious and hardworking White House correspondents who are there when the cameras aren't on, or who are there to prepare to turn the cameras on. They will now have potentially more space inside the actual White House to do their work. So as long as the moving of the briefing room is not an effort to move out the entire press and keep the press from doing its work, which is to cover every twist and turn of the Trump White House, then it doesn't seem that big a deal. If, on the other hand, they're using interest in the Trump administration to eject the entire press operation from the physical White House, then that would be quite a move indeed.
All right. John Dickerson in Washington. John, thanks.
Thanks, Elaine.